The Volvo Ocean Race is tagged Life at the Extreme, and this is true in so many ways. Our first speaker knows everything about it, for he has experienced it firsthand as a skipper in the Volvo Ocean Race in 2001. He also has participated in 2 America's Cup and 3 editions of the Whitbread Round the Race. Gurra is his name. Today is also lecturing on leadership topics in universities, and he's running businesses in his spare time. Today he's with us to share his lessons learned on trust and teamwork from all these different experiences of sailing and of running businesses. Please welcome on stage Gurra Krantz.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, looking at the various polls you had there on the screen, I got it completely wrong. I should have ticked that box sunbathing instead of actually going into this whole debacle of racing around the world. How many of you are competing when you race, when you sail? Any? On what level? All right. You're the one that ticked the Olympic box to the left. No. It's a special one, and I've tried for years to come to grips with, is there any type of leadership that can actually bridge over the lack of team membership? And of course there is, but not if you want to hit the ceiling and go to your maximum performance within the team. Then you have to have the team membership fully implemented without any lacks of additions of the individual knowledge or commitment to what you have. It has to be the individual that actually runs it. And then, of course, you have leadership on top of it. But if you want to hit the ceiling, the top performance of your entire team, there is no leadership in the world that can bridge over the lack of team membership. Not at all. Most of the thoughts we have will always be created after we've done it. It's a sort of a lesson learned situation. It's not that we think about how to do it in the heat of the moment, but after a few years on the water and changing my life situation. By the way, have you ever tried this, to put your life on a few sentences like this? It's quite interesting, isn't it? Is that all? Half a century and nothing more? It's quite interesting. It's an humbling experience, I tell you, to do that. But it's so, and that's why it's so interesting with sailing, in particular Volvo Ocean Race, because you get all the parameters. You have to have the social life intact, you have to have your commitment intact, you have to have all the technology, Mother Nature. You need to basically master it all, and nobody can do that unless you have a complete team. In one single person, you will never find it. Another connection with the race today is the environment itself and the pollution in the water, and we have turned the tide on plastics, representing that new addition of actually looking into the water. What's there? How do we pollute it? And I'll tell you one thing from in the past. We had a leg going from south of England down to Cape Town all the way in one go, and there we found actually a floating fridge with the door facing up. Opportunity, eh? And we seriously considered diverting our course and go closer and pick up the fridge to see if there's any beer in it. But we finally, at the end of the day, we never did that. But there's a lot of stuff floating in the water, and we get to know Mother Nature, and we have quite a clear position in terms of that. Going back to this presentation, when somebody asks you, can you please incorporate this and that in your speech, and very often it's no, I can't do that. It has to come from the heart, right? But when Celine told me these values from your own situation, it's just hand in glove. It fits perfectly what you have to incorporate within the team. How do you build a team, and what values actually represents your team once you get out on the water and operate the sailing as such. And I don't want to end up saying that this or that one is more important than the other, but you have to have it all in there. Without this trust, reliability, and the respect, you will get nowhere. It doesn't happen. And if you like each other or not, that's a whole different situation, a whole different discussion. But if you have the trust, respect, and reliability, you can actually, it sounds pretty stupid to say, but you can actually put the life of your own life in somebody else's hands once you get out there, because you need that trust. If you like each other, that's icing on the cake, of course. So teamwork, empowerment, diversity, and of course passion. I made a small and very quick calculation during the 9 months of racing. If we transfer all the hours we work into a 40-hour working week, we deliver per person 3.5 man year in 9 months. And that shows a little bit of the intensity, which means unless you have all these pieces of the puzzle intact, if you're not at peace with your life and the family and whatnot, then you will never be able to deliver without any question marks your 100% attention to your task. So it's a big personal responsibility to make it happen, and a big undertaking from a social point of view as well. I'm going to tell you 3 stories. The first one is gone fishing. From a leadership point of view, we had an interesting situation in one project. One of the guys, Jeff Scott from New Zealand, he's one of the best speed makers in the world. He could make any boat go fast, and nobody really could understand what, he was just easing half an inch there and correcting the course half a degree there, and all of a sudden the boat was just swimming nicely and it increased a few percent in boat speed. That's his perfection and profession. But don't try to get him into a crew meeting when you're on land, between the legs. It just doesn't happen. We decide for a weather briefing at 11 o'clock, 11:15, still no Jeff Scott. You call Jeff Scott, and Jeff Scott answers the phone and says, Hi, Jeff, where are you? I'm out fishing. But we have a weather briefing at 11 o'clock. Why are you not here? I just told you, I'm out fishing. How do you deal with it? You tell him, you yell in the phone, say, come back here, you need to be here, everybody's waiting for you. What do? I was a skipper, how do I tackle it? Luckily enough, everybody took the full responsibility. I did not have to tackle it at all. They decided, Tony Mutter said, who's sharing hotel room with him, leave him be. Don't worry about him. Leave him fishing out there, because I can unpick his brain and I deliver the messages we need to get to him in the evening. Just leave him there. He will be the team will be the faster team if he is out fishing. Don't force him into these meetings. Think about it. Had I, as a skipper, told everybody that you have to be here, he has to be out fishing, then you had the whole team sitting there working, he go fishing and we have to be here, and all of that sort of nonsense. So the team took the full commitment into personal responsibility and said, this is the way we do it, the best for the team. Fantastic situation. The other one, fried the eggs. We had a navigator in one boat, 93, 94 that is, a tall Dutch gentleman. You know why the Dutch are so tall? They live below the surface of the water, right? So they need to get to the same height. He's so tall that somebody said with a joke, we have to put that navigator inside the boat when we build it, because once you put the deck on, you can't get him in. That's how tall he is. Anyway, he said one day, talking about personal ambitions and stuff, he said, my goals are set so high, I will never reach them. And in my ambition to reach these unreachable goals, I will pass everybody else. Okay? We tried to comprehend that. And in reality, what did it look like? Well, he was never ready. 3 o'clock at night, the start before the race, the night before the start of the race, he was never ready. He was sitting there with his computer, always late to everything. Even breakfast, he was late. And once he came to the breakfast room, he always wanted his eggs over easy. And in Portugal, as we were, they can only do it sunny side, one side only. You just can't get them to turn the eggs over. I don't know why. So we sat there, 11 or 15 or 17 of us, waiting for him to get his second set of eggs. Everybody's wasting time. And we said to each other, this can't go on. And Rodney Ardern, one of the crew members, he said, I'll fix it. He went down every morning, 5 minutes before breakfast time, and grabbed the chef by the neck and said, this is how you fry these eggs, for God damn it. Again, personal responsibility. He just did what had to be done in order to get the whole thing working properly and get everybody on board and make it just tick as a team. No prestige, no positioning, nothing. Same thing with the third story, bottle in the pool area. We had a young first-timer on the foredeck, and he one day in Miami came up with a brilliant idea that if he stands on the balcony, drinks a beer, and then throw the bottle down at the pool area, that's a brilliant decision. A very, very good thing to do. The whole team came together and said, this is not how you represent us. This is beyond the border. This cannot be corrected. They said, this is a borderline that has been crossed. So they actually told him to leave not in exact words, but they told him, you're not part of the team anymore if that's how you represent us. So me as a skipper, I only had to say, okay, let's call it a day. The team decision was already taken. And that's how far it goes. With the right type of preparation, leadership, circumstances, you give everybody the freedom to actually hit their 100% delivery. It's fascinating, because the leadership side and the team member side is in sync with each other, and the team is very, 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 very clear about where do we head with all these values and how we operate within a team. That comes with accountability. Who's the last one in the office to learn that somebody has a smell of sweat? Anybody? Yeah, the person that smells. Nobody walks up to Gurra and says, Gurra, according to Western standards, you don't smell very good. Can you go home, take a shower, and change your shirt? And the whole issue is over, right? I'm there every day, every coffee break. I can even unfold the old size of Göteborgs Posten to make it, at the coffee table without hitting anybody. And I get that sense of something is wrong. But nobody walks up to me and says, this is the way. 5 years later, I make a mistake, and then somebody says, you shouldn't talk because you made a mistake, and you smell, and then bang, 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 straight down in my boots I go. Because now it's time, right? And all of a sudden, everybody's being honest because I've had a failure on my hands. Think about it. What happens in the moment when somebody walks up to me before it happens, without any judgment whatsoever, and tells me, this is the situation. Can you help us out? Because I'm helping them. I don't have a problem with it. Then we start building trust, respect, and reliability. And that is so far more important than liking each other. If we build a team and the composure of the team on liking each other, the only thing we do is to build a higher height to fall from should something go wrong, which eventually happens every now and then. If it's built on trust, reliability, and respect, then we can always sort it out. And I can actually risk my life in other people's hands. So the talking with and not about each other, the directness is an investment, and it never ever fails. It's really, really rewarding way of working with people, and it's, you never basically have to lie. So it's a fundamental thing for the people on board. And the communication itself, very often we're encapsulated in hoods and ski goggles and face mask and everything. You need to understand who the other one is. Therefore, the period before we start a race is as important as any team building session in the world. That's when you get to know each other. We get to know the various individuals, and we create that aura that we then, in our gut, with our gut feeling, transfer into the Southern Ocean when we can't communicate. There's no way you can actually get to know what the other one is trying to say. We send people up in a mast. You start tailing. All of a sudden, the person is up there. You start closing your eyes, and you tie the knot around the winch and let them sit there. You do the safety knot and everything. And all of a sudden, that person who's sitting by the halyard is starting to lower the person in the mast. No words have been spoken, no communication whatsoever. And it's always the right time. I've never heard that somebody is coming down saying, why didn't you let me finish? Or why did you let me sit there for such a long time? Some sort of different communication exists. The person sitting by the halyard, they know that if it's a Frenchman, okay, then I add a half a minute. If it's a person from New Zealand, I can take off a few seconds, being categoric as we are. And if we know each other, if we spend that time to get to know each other, it's so much simpler and more direct communication without too many words, which means when the going gets tough out there, you have no capacity to talk and understand, and let alone hear each other. You look at each other, you nod, because we know both what's at stake here. Fascinating when it happens. Very often, not very often, always we end up with a multinational crew, 5 to 10 different nationalities. And as you can suspect, I'm becoming more and more categoric after each of these projects, how different we are. Who's always in charge of the tools and the engine? The German, right? Everything is parallel and 90 degrees, and the screwdriver is nicely polished, put in its place, and you have to do the string 2 times around the package, and you tie the knots with even length on the strings. And you're ready to kill the guy before it's done, you know? If the Frenchman comes within 2 meters distance of the engine dies, just like this for some reason. Sorry, Celine. I know it's 2018. Can we talk like this? Of course we can. If we take away the judgment, what is right or wrong, it's just there. We need it. God forbid with 12 Gurra Krantz in a crew like this. It just would not work. Simple as that. So the metaphor of cultural differences is a really good metaphor how different we have to be, with different tasks, different skill sets, personalities and whatnot. We managed to break the mast in the Southern Ocean, roughly the same area where John was lost, 1,400 miles southwest of Cape Horn, middle of the night, minus 0.8 in the air, minus 5 degrees, minus 0.8 in the water, minus 5 degrees in the air. Waves were not 30 meters high like they claimed in the newspapers. We had actually instruments who could measure the wave height, and the highest wave we measured was 27.4 meters. Wind speed 48 knots roughly average. Do you carry spinnaker in those conditions? No, we don't. Oh, we didn't know that, so we had one up, sorry. We did have one up. Managed to hit the mast in the water at 30 knots of boat speed, and it just twisted off, and that was it for the race. After that happened, we divided ourselves into 6 different mini watches with two persons in each watch. And I said to myself, I'm going to test with this now. To the left, you have Monsieur Bidegoury from France. Then you have Herr Kessels from Germany, and Herr Kessels also have to have an English mother. That means you get 700 years of war in one go. That normally sets it off quite nicely, a bit of spice in the group. So I said to myself, I need a watch captain. Who do I pick as a watch captain out of these two? Herr Kessels, to the right. And then to the left, the first creator, the person who can steer the boat with fingertips just floating down the waves like this, back and forth, and finding the absolute fastest way, where the German goes straight, within a tenth of a degree like this. The Frenchman is playing with the waves, just go really, really fast. I tell the German watch captain, we go to Punta Arenas through the Magellan Sound, and the course to that place is 80 degrees. And for a German, 80 degrees is 80 degrees. How can it be anything else? For a Frenchman, 80 degrees is 20, 240, it doesn't matter as long as it's fast and fun, right? So these two goons set out with the task to sail the boat with a 4-meter mast instead of 28-meter mast. After like 45 minutes, I could hear some snappy, pitchy comments on decks. I look up through one of the hatches and I can see the Frenchman back and forth playing with the waves like this. 4-meter mast. Hell on earth. Really, really bad. The middle of the night as well, and snowing and the whole lot. And I could see that the Frenchman was getting quite upset. And the reason for his upsetness was that the German watch captain parked himself with the back towards where we were heading, head above the compass, and as the Frenchman was going back and forth like this, he was nagging, now you're 3 degrees wrong, 5 degrees wrong, 12 degrees wrong, like this, just nagging, nagging, nagging. Oh my goodness, it's kind of a return of an experiment. And the funny thing is that these two started to argue with each other. And in 3 different languages, yelling and screaming at the end of it. And all of a sudden, dead silence. Being a very happy Frenchman, he managed to get the boat up in 17.4 knots of boat speed with 4-meter mast instead of 28-meter mast. Has to be some world record. He was very, very happy with that. But the watch captain was extremely upset. You know why? Very simply, world record in boat speed, but 180 degrees in the wrong way, of course, with the course. Minor issue for the Frenchman, the whole world fell apart for the German. Quite interesting how different aspects comes into play, and that's how we have to appreciate it. Because if we're too close to each other, it won't work. If I have to, as a skipper, go in and say, do this and do that, don't say that, and stop arguing, then we're back to 1853. One skipper is trying to do it all. That won't win the race. So all those mechanisms, the interaction between the human beings are extremely important to get the maximum output from the performance side as well. This is another way of looking at it. We need the full toolbox, don't we? Goals and visions, very important. But what are they worth unless we commit to fulfill them, to actually deliver it? It has to be some understanding of which way we're going, the direction and everything, but I have to personally commit to deliver it. It takes one person in the group to say, what if it doesn't work? For the whole thing to crumble. Just one thought. Doesn't even have to express it in words. Extremely important, all this. So the commitment will actually set the tone for your life on board, the way you act and the way you encounter all the difficulties, and that you actually can survive in these conditions and want to live there. You have to have your why and want intact, and which I will return to. These guys are not sleeping, they're out, by the way. They are basically unconscious. I would like to show you a short clip from America's Cup 2013 in San Francisco. The New Zealand team is in the lead, 8-1. The first one with 9 wins will win the America's Cup. They eventually lose 8-9. How on earth did that happen? It did not happen, it did not start on the water. It actually happened in the press conference room. Take a look at this. At the end, you will see the dialogue in the press conference room, and try to pick up what they say, because it's really, really interesting where they manage to put a seed of uncertainty into the team that actually leads the whole thing. Check this out.
The entire sailing world holds its breath for the start of the 34th America's Cup. Oh, how close can it get?
The postponement card. We'd like to use the postponement card.
We need to go back and regroup. We feel they've got a bit of an edge on us at the moment.
The Kiwis now just 1 win away from the America's Cup.
It's not over. It's a long way from over. Imagine if these guys lost from here. What an upset that would be. That'd be one hell of a story. That'd be one hell of a comeback. That's my motivation.
Short ending there. But did you hear what he said? Imagine if these guys lost from here. That's when he puts a seed in of uncertainty. It would be one hell of a story, one hell of a comeback, and that's my motivation. So he used the media to boost his own team, and the media to actually put that seed of uncertainty into the defender of the leading position. And all of a sudden the defenders were, or the leading party was actually trying to save what they already had, and started to race with the back mirror in front of them instead of looking through the front mirror. Fascinating psychology, and the way he actually took that leadership into the press conference room and made it happen. And then from then on, it all went pear-shaped for the Kiwis, and they had all sorts of trouble. And eventually, the American boat came back and won 9-8. Just an unbelievable type of leadership, and also the fact that the team took it on board. The skipper had the mandate. He had the trust, reliability, and respect to say that without being laughed at. If you're down 1-8, there's only 1 point for the leading boat to win, and you still have plenty of racing to do. Of course, you're going to be uncertain, a normal person, but this was not a normal team. They were set with the focus, we're going to win this. Never hesitated. Fascinating, really fascinating. So that's where we start talking about the why and want. And if we have our why intact, then we can always create our want. But if we still have question marks, is it going to really work? And what if it doesn't work? And you start hesitating, then it's not going to happen. It takes one person in the whole team. As I said, then it will crumble. So why and want is extremely important for ourselves, so we don't have any question marks left. Care and dare. We need to care. We need to make sure everybody is safe. It's just a yacht race, nothing else. It's no more important than that. Families are way above importance, of course. And we have to understand that we have to get across the finish line. And then eventually we have these tragic situations which are just hopeless to comprehend and understand and take on board. So the caring and daring is really important. Without caring, we cannot dare, because then we hesitate. We start changing our behavior, and if we do that, we hesitate to do our tasks, 100%. Passion 9 to 5, is that important? And what do I mean? Well, passion can be delivered in many ways. Some people want to be there 9 to 5, do nothing else. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. We had a Kiwi guy, Dingo. He spent so much time in Australia, so they started calling him Dingo in New Zealand. So he was the perfect, absolute 100% perfect individual for being a watch captain. So I said, Dingo, why don't you try it out? You're fit for it. You're 100% cut for it. Let's go and do it. Nah, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Okay, eventually I managed to get him into trying that position, and he was absolutely smack on. The best ever, the best communicator, the best technician, the best sailor in that position. 100% delivery from him. Do you know what he said afterwards? Nah, it's not for me. He wasn't, he didn't have the need to be in that focus, in that center. Fascinating. So passion can come in different ways. The most important thing is that we can trust that each individual is there on time, doing the right thing. That's all we can ask for. Then we had different passion layers on top of it. If everybody was like me, just trying to change tomorrow all the time, nothing will be solid, straight, and delivered in time. We're just in a constant development period. That wouldn't work either, of course. So basically, if you get this in place, this is what I'm looking for, what I want to happen in my team. If I have that in place, then I will get a team that will operate 100%, no prestige, no positioning. We have a good understanding for that if we don't have a plan, we have nothing to divert from. We need to understand all that. Nothing is set in concrete. Tomorrow will change, one way or the other. Development is constant. If we start thinking about yesterday was better, well, the only thing we know is that we can never stop a development. The only thing we can do and achieve is to delay it. It will happen, whether we like it or not. So I better take that big step into tomorrow, which means I get no prestige, no positioning. It will be a flow in the team, and everybody, I was not going to say is happy, but we will deliver the best we have at all times, which is what we want. I'm going to finish off with a very tricky question for you. You ready? Picture the boat in the Southern Ocean. -degrees outside, possibly 0 to +3 degrees inside the boat. Where do you sleep, top or bottom bunk? You want to go up here or down here? Where do you sleep? Somebody said top over here? That's correct. Correct answer. Why? Come on. Warmer, 0.2 of a degree warmer up there, of course. Perfect place. Then we move the boat to the equator. 36 degrees in the water, sun shining all day long, black boat, inside temperature 45 to 48 degrees. And mind you have to keep your body weight in a bunk, in a bed, to keep your body weight in the right position to drive the boat as fast as possible. Where do you sleep, top or bottom bunk? Top, somebody said, yeah, why? Exactly. The sweat is dripping from this guy straight in the face of that guy. So it's like your own career. Go for the top, climb for God's sake. That's how it is. I'm not saying that you should live like that, but it's an interesting experience to be so close, if I may say so. So, at the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening. Do we have time for a couple of questions?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
While Gurra is here, do we have any questions? All questions welcome. Yes. We're going to bring a mic to you.
So what was the most challenging aspect of the World Round Race? I mean, if you would have to choose one of a lot, I guess.
Is that a personal question, or is it
with regards to the team and keeping the boat running?
Okay, so the most difficult situation we had in our team,
Yep.
I said that would be to recover from losing the mast in the Southern Ocean and try get back up and start running again. We knew the race itself was over. We could never reach a podium finish. How do we set our goals? Basically, to recharge the whole battery of the team. That's a difficult one. But it was done, and it can be done. From a personal point of view, those 8 seconds when we lost the mast, and after that you have a head count made to make sure everybody's on board. That horrible experience of that type of anxiety, not knowing if everybody is on board, that is something that will never, ever leave my brain and body. And I don't want to experience it again. So that was tough. And that decision, but that situation made me come to the conclusion that I'm not going to do this again. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What was your reason for deciding to live your life like this? I mean, what drove you? What was the motivation?
The reasons for doing what I do? No education, no job. I was led into this path by my parents, and I was convinced after being given a dinghy by a friend of my father, I was going to win the national championship in that particular dinghy. I'd never raced before in my whole life. Of course, it was a drama. I was so stressed. I took my weather gear on with the trousers back to front. I took them back off and put them back again, back to front, 3 times in a row. That's how stressed I was. And that somehow made me think, this is fantastic. I don't know why it ended up that way, but I could feel that this is so complex, and this is such a challenge. And I want to explore it, basically. Then I came to a T-junction where I said, now I'm racing full time. Do I want to make a career out of it or not? And that was a conscious decision that I want to go into the professional yacht racing as a skipper and take the responsibility and build my own projects.
Did it become an addiction for you?
Not an addiction, no, not at all. I see it very much as a profession, and the addiction is to test myself. That addiction I want. I want to see how far I can take myself and build a team. And I can't even eat breakfast without finding out a better way for tomorrow. That's a disease and an addiction, to optimize all the time, never relax and sit down. And it's always, can I do this faster? Can I do it a different way? Painting a wall is hopeless. I can never finish it because I will sit half of the time trying to figure out how to do it more efficiently. So therefore you need the people 9 to 5 to finish the painting, as an example. Have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, okay. All right. You need a mic for the transfer, yeah.
No, my question, when you were racing, there were many Swedish sailors around. You talked about the different nationalities now.
Yes.
What happened? We have one guy this time, and how do you see the guys coming back, Swedish sailors?
Swedish sailors, we were a whole team, Roger, Magnus, and myself. We brought on board a whole new set of young guys. They all started to race professionally. It's only one left, actually 2 left, and those are both from New Zealand within that team. All the Swedes have gone over to some other types of profession. 2 of them out of 4 Swedes are working within the yachting industry. The other 2 are within banking and not sailing at all. I don't know if it's a society thing, but somehow it's quite a daring decision to step into this and trust yourself that it's going to work out properly. It's not easy to make money. Sometimes you make a lot of money, sometimes nothing. And the uncertainty in that situation will probably affect everybody that looks for the security in life. I like it more when it's not 100% secure. That's a fact. I know my generation with Roger and Magnus had the same aspect of looking at it. I think the younger guys maybe want more safety in it and more going to the office, basically. We are more entrepreneurial the way we think and act, and possibly, if I can say so, the next generation hasn't got that same blood in the system. I really hope it will change. There have been many attempts to change that and make it like a schooling system, but we're not there. We're not even close. In New Zealand, for example, they have a schooling system that will foster new generations all the time. And therefore they have predominantly been really successful in the yacht racing industry. Is that answering your question? Yeah, all right. Okay.
Right. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Gurra.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
A very
Thanks.
inspiring talk.